And we have a glitch.
Always. There's always a glitch.
Well, we are live, so let's go ahead and
Okay,
get started.
my
Hopefully, hopefully my intro doesn't interrupt us.
yeah, it's gonna show up at some point.
Exactly. So, everyone, welcome to our scheduled presentation for today. Our discussion, open discussion about AI. We have joining us remotely Jose Monterrosa and our AI expert Philip Emmons. Philip, welcome to our live stream.
Thank you, Victor.
So, for those of you that are joining us for the first time, what we do in this live stream is we cover everything that happens in media, advertising, and PR. Jose is a longtime ad agency owner, owner of Imagina Communications, and I'm a longtime legacy media expert who's worked in all media, TV, radio, print, magazines, you name it. I just about have done it, or I have collaborated or worked with clients that's what they do. So we bring a wealth of experience, and now joining us is Philip, who now brings the missing element, AI, which is what we've
Yes,
been discussing. Jose, why don't you go ahead and give us a big overview for those people that have not been following our conversation about AI?
sure, absolutely. But first, let me thank Philip for being part of this. Definitely, looking forward for this conversation. In the last weeks, we have been talking about AI and how to incorporate AI into the different marketing tools that have been
Mhm.
evolving over the years, and that includes email, chatbot, even website development. So there, we know that AI is generating presence
Mhm.
on different tools that traditionally marketers had been using. So we have been talking about that, and obviously having you right now here, it's going to be extremely insightful to know what you know from your end about how to use AI when it comes to marketing. So welcome, Philip.
Yeah, thank you, Jose. I appreciate it.
So, Philip, I have a question to get us started. Is tell us about your journey into AI.
So I've actually been doing development of all kinds, software, website, mobile application, games, since for about 17 years now, roughly. And
Wow.
a couple years ago, we over the past, I would say, 6 years, we've seen a very large decline in clients that are looking for mobile application development and other types of software development. It's a pretty saturated field right now, and what we're seeing is that drop, and then we had COVID, and it just disrupted everything in terms of the development field. So what I did was I've actually spent a couple of years during COVID and after COVID working on a new transition plan, on a new a way to continue business and move things in a new direction. And that's where really I started picking up at AI, um, and watching OpenAI, ChatGPT. And about 2 years ago is when I transitioned my company to a nonprofit company, and dedicated my development team directly to AI. So we kind of transitioned from, we still do all the other projects, but we've been focusing more on AI and developing internally our team so that we can be on the forefront. And one of the most important pieces of this is as a nonprofit company, all of our profits go straight to our programs, and the programs that we have are such as putting AI into a tablet with some memory and cognitive games and deploying them to every nursing home in the U.S., one to every senior citizen. Uh, you know, this is just some of the things that can happen right now that we have the technology for, we have the capability for, to combat loneliness, depression, and these are some of the things that I'm trying to focus on. And the nonprofit is based on technology and mental health and wellness. So
Hmm.
that's a big area that I'm trying to focus on. But with that being said, there's there's just so much information that has come up in the past 2 years. In the past year, the the open source field has dramatically shifted. We've seen uh, Zuckerberg released the open source LLM, large language library, um,
Right.
in about a year ago, roughly. And since he did that, now there's over 7,500 different open source versions and specialties, and they continue to be worked on, adjusted, and adapted. And even over the course of the past year, we've seen probably about I believe it's somewhere upwards of 20,000 AI companies and products that have kind of propped up. I mean, there's just in every industry.
And I
There's
might
really
say a lot of those companies, all they're doing is really reselling Chat GP 3 or 4, whatever the latest version is. Because again, they don't have the engineering or the infrastructure behind them compared to what Philip builds from scratch in terms of creating one of them, Jose's chatbots for customer service. So, Philip,
Right.
talk to us about that meeting that you and I were in, to where we were meeting with a fellow client that he wanted to bring on 10 customer service reps, and you made the bold claim of
yeah,
with AI, you all you need is about 3 and the rest can be robots.
yeah, that's
Okay,
exactly right.
let's hear it.
So essentially, there's already real world use cases out there where an entire customer service department that is 26 people strong, 23 of those have been replaced by 1 to 2, AI bots, and essentially they're able to take care of your tickets, your customer support, all of your customer questions and answers, and it saved that company about 85% of his overhead costs. And at the
Wow.
same time, it also reduced his customer, the actual ticket completion time from 2 hours and 13 minutes down to 3 minutes and 12 seconds.
Wow.
So when you're talking about being able to do more efficient jobs to being more productive, there's really no doubt that AI is capable of it. It's really going to be a matter of how we implement that, and that's one of the reasons why me going into a nonprofit company was important and trying to stay ahead of it. There's with the transition of OpenAI, it's unheard of in the industry for a company to get money as a nonprofit research development and then switch over to a for-profit company, and that's why a lot of people in OpenAI have been quitting, and that's why you have a lot of disruption in that area. But they're also proprietary, so most of the industry only knows about OpenAI and ChatGPT. They don't know anything about open source. And if you don't know anything about open source, you're losing half the battle. That's half the information, half of your infrastructure, half your architecture, and so that's why it's important to make sure that you keep up with that. But I'm not seeing any consultants that are really focusing on that. They're just trying
Mhm.
to take and repackage ChatGPT and resell it, and there's such a high cost associated with that. And open source is so much cleaner, so much more specific specialties. I wouldn't hire a CEO to put into a customer service role. I would have a specialty AI that would be in that service role, which takes a lot less energy, a lot less power, and a lot less maintenance to make sure it's up and running. And it runs quicker, faster. But most of your companies, most of your AI consultants don't even know that's even around.
Can you compare the differences between open source and like a CAN solution using your traditional ChatGPT, for example?
Yeah. So ChatGPT, because it's proprietary, they don't release any of their AI, or any information about it. So
Okay.
when Meta released the Llama version, essentially what they did was they had their own version that they had been training over time, and they released all the source code. And then that
Right.
allowed for every hobbyist, every other engineer, everybody who was in the forefront of the AI and technology space were able to take that code, modify, adjust it, do lots of different things, and understand how it was made. And that, if he hadn't have done that, then we'd be stuck with just having Microsoft, Google,
Yeah.
and OpenAI running all of the AI products, and we would have no say about what we could do or any kind of custom sources. And that, of course, that there's no competition when you do that. There's, it's going to skyrocket their prices. They can charge whatever they want, and
Right.
it's very expensive to do something like that. So it's just not scalable, right? Not right now.
Gotcha. Okay. And in the case that you were explaining, the chatbot that you developed for this client, right? Can you give us an idea of how long it took you to, I mean, from point A to point Z, for someone that is trying to get into something like this, how big of a deal this is?
So it's there's a lot of confusion and a lot of things that continuously change week after week, month after month. And so it's really up to me and my team to stay up to date, up to par with all the information, making sure that we're at the top of the list here, that we
Right.
understand what's changing, what's coming, what's going to happen, because one technology can shift so many different things.
Exactly.
And so we keep track of that, we keep on top of it, but it's it's really just a matter of customizing a development plan for every individual company, because
Mhm.
everybody has a need for it. There is not
Right.
one company or one person in the world right now that couldn't utilize it, and that couldn't utilize it for the best purposes possible. But nobody
Yeah.
understands or knows what they could use it for.
Yeah.
Right? That's like it's the equivalent of me, going into you know, going to a car dealership and just saying, "Give me a car." Doesn't
Hmm.
matter. I don't know what you can do. I don't know what
Yeah.
kinds you have. I don't know what models you have. I don't know any of that. Just give me a car. Well, that's what people are doing with ChatGPT. They're taking a standard, model that's only went out there, and they're trying to repurpose that, because it's the easiest way to do it. But it's not the appropriate way for every company. It's really just a matter of trying to put a band-aid on something. All
Yeah.
these little products that come out are band-aids. They're just one product that's going to do this over here. And that one client that we were talking about, the one of the issues being that there's there's so many different systems that they're already tacked on to their infrastructure. They might
Uh-huh.
have 5 different systems they have to log into to try to connect all these different things, and and uh, and with all these different AI products, they're doing the same thing. So we actually have a universal software that we use, that we've developed over the past year, where we can take and unify all of those products into a single AI component, and we can host it directly on your own private servers.
Oh,
And that's something you can't do with ChatGPT unless you are spending a ton of money, and it doesn't really cost that much to do. Just nobody knows about it, and if you don't ask, you
yeah.
don't know. But that's
Yeah.
where the consulting comes from.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, it's a big undertaking, but you already have that solution in place. Sounds like in which you can basically integrate different, maybe in the case of your client was using different platform for different purposes, but you came in with a solution that can actually put everything together, pretty
Correct.
much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and instead of hiring, if anybody is, if you're not planning this out, if you haven't planned for the future, if you haven't gotten an actual AI consultant, and trust me, I team up with a lot of different companies that they think they have an AI expert, but what they really did was they put a job out for a machine learning engineer, or they put a job out for some technical consultant, and the person they hired knows how to build it from scratch. They might know the internals, but they don't know the overview of AI. They
Gotcha.
don't know the big picture. They know these little pieces, but by the time they finish building something internally, it's already obsolete. There's already something else that came out.
Yes.
So it's definitely a matter of every company having a solid plan individually. And I wouldn't recommend anybody upgrade or hire new people or anything until they have a plan in place. Because when you hire someone, you're taking a lot of risk on, you're taking your insurances, all these different costs. In reference to what we were talking about with the other client, he was hiring 10. And I said, no, you don't. If you're going to hire right now because you need someone, hire 2. Don't hire anybody else. And when the time comes, whenever you see what your need is, when you see how much you need an actual person in there, then we can assist them with AI, if not replace altogether. So I
Interesting.
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah. So, Philip, there was a couple of comments that you made in that meeting that I want to reference to for you to elaborate. One of them is you can actually build a supervisor of bots, a bot supervisor that
Okay.
supervises other bots with very specific functions. So, talk about that.
Yeah, that's actually part of our technology that we have that we built over the course of the past year. Essentially, it's more or less a like a manager that is able to oversee all of these different agents that we put into a company, and what it does is it's an error corrector. Right
Mm,
now, most of your companies, almost every company out there, looks at AI and they say, okay, we're going to implement a chatbot. But the problem is even if you do Chat GPT, if you're a CFO and you're implementing an AI into it, then you have to make sure that the hallucination rate is controlled. You have to make sure that there's no errors going to be in that because you're liable for that.
Yeah.
And what I do is I treat it like an actual person. Treat an AI like it's a brain. And when I do that, is if the CFO is going to ask HR a question, he's going to talk to his agent, which is an executive VA that's got login credentials that only he can access or others that he gives access to. And when he asks a question, it goes to the HR agent to find the actual specific information because every bot is trained especially on that particular role. And when I say, I would say, I said before, you don't need a CEO to run that HR role. ChatGPT is like putting a CEO in that place. You have so much large cost, so much information, so much everything that you're overkill, and
mhm.
you have a lot of cost that goes with that, and scaling it is just really not feasible. But when you do open source, you don't have to pay for the chat gpt usage. You don't have to pay for the actual third party connectors to do any kind of hooking up like emails, calendars. I can literally set up an executive with an agent that is that can, he can talk to it and very simply say, I want to, a company B just came out, you know, Mister. I basically I call mine Ava. So he would tell the bot, whether it was in chat or whether it was in conversation, because there's voice capability as well. He would basically just say, Ava, do some research on company B for me, and then write a document and put it in Google Drive, send it out in an email to everybody, all the executives, and then set up a meeting for 2 p.m. next Tuesday so that we can talk about this. And just by doing that, the agent is going to put all these different things in place and talk to the supervisor, make sure it's got the right information, and then go back and schedule and do everything. And that also, there's a second proprietary piece that we use called a manager GPT is what we use. And the supervisor and the manager are two different pieces. Supervisor is your error corrector. The manager is what handles all of your controls. So anytime that you're going to send an email, it goes through the manager. And so there's very specific roles that you put in place so that they talk and act just like regular people in a company. It's just much more efficient.
Philip, are we talking looking at this or trying to think of this as a workflow, like a big chart? Are we talking about maybe that on that workflow we have hubs, and those hubs are like the supervisors or the gatekeepers of errors, or if I get this type of question, then I direct this to HR, the HR agent or the marketing agent, whatever that is that the
They
way we can think of this?
Yeah, so you would treat every AI like an individual person you're hiring in that department. So you would have an HR manager, a human, and then you would have an HR assistant, and that HR assistant agent would do everything the manager needs, requires, handle all the information, but at the same time, it can do the job of, let's say, two or three HR assistants
Right.
by itself very quickly. It could take resumes, it can review resumes to the job post that you have, it can post jobs. It can schedule the first interview. It can complete the first interview by itself. It can give all of the interviewees a score. It will schedule the second interview with the HR manager and give the HR manager guidelines as to what to ask and what their strengths are. So this is something that they can do in a matter of 5 minutes versus
Right.
two or three HR assistants going through all of that process over a week.
And the way you're describing this is pretty much a platform that is designed for the internal process of or procedures that a company may have, right? It's not
Correct.
necessarily for external audiences or
Yeah. With
No, it's
firewalls
internal.
built in for proprietary information that's not going to be out on the web.
Yeah,
okay.
we can put it
And
custom in house or on premises. so that your proprietary information as a company doesn't go to
Right.
Google, doesn't go to OpenAI. It stays
Mhm.
directly with you, and that's the biggest concern right now. Um,
Let me ask you one thing. So
mhm,
let's say that you set up this on a health clinic, for
mhm,
example, and they have right now maybe 5 people working in the HR department, but then all suddenly we have this new technology that is based on AI. You know
mhm.
what? We need one, and that may be like the manager or the director of HR.
Yeah.
How does that person needs to be ready for something like this? I mean, is there some specific training that they have to? I mean, I'm trying to figure out what the future for that HR manager now is, in terms of getting ready for something like this.
So the again, it's based on company, company specific. But let's
Right.
say we were going to have an HR. I would do a phased approach. I would do a plan for that company that says, in the first month we're going to put in this spot. We're going to, slowly over time, replace the actual humans that are in there as the assistants, and the HR manager can easily control or use it just by talking to it. You just simply treat it like a friend. You literally can treat it like a friend, and it will do anything that you want. It's about how we set it up on the back end, and how we give it a persona. Essentially, we give it a job description, and it is it just does the job description perfectly.
That sounds very
Crazy,
scary, right?
crazy, crazy.
And it is. But one thing I would say is there are a lot of people in office and high, in AI itself that are looking at this issue, and it's coming full steam ahead. No one's going to be able to stop it, but
Yeah.
they are taking measures to look at what's going to happen. And obviously the job market is, the unemployment rate's going to go up, but there are steps and things that they're working on in place to supplement that. For example, I believe the estimate that I just saw is um, if they wanted to give everybody in the U.S.
Mhm.
A salary, like a standard salary of $50,000 or $100,000, they could supplement that. They could put that in to every person, and if you want to work, you do, but you don't have to. And it would only
Mhm.
be towards the adults. I think there's about roughly 190 to 200,000, or sorry, 190 to 200 million adults, right now in the U.S. By giving them an income, because AI is going to be taking their place, there's going to have to be a universal income, and so it is coming. It will be there because we can't have an unemployment rate of 50%.
Sure. We're not shooting ourselves in the foot, right?
No, no, that actually, that's one of the points is in because we're a nonprofit. One of the things that we do is we focus on what happens to the employee. So,
Uh-huh.
whenever I talk with the company, I usually am talking to the CFO or the CEO, and one of my suggestions is very simply, you're going to give a severance, to these employees, but also I recommend that that those CEOs donate $5,000 to our nonprofit per employee. And what we can do is we will personally train each one of them during their severance in AI and other technical fields. So this is something that people talk about, but nobody ever does, and that's something that we're focusing on doing.
What makes me wonder, what happens in a real world scenario, right? Where you have, again, going back to the example of the clinic that used to have 5, but now it has 1.
Hmm.
But what happens on the other end? And I'm talking about the people that are requesting information. I mean, why do you need an HR department in this case when maybe you're not going to have employees in the clinic? I mean, and so are bots talking to each other? I mean, is the
Hmm.
customer a bot, and then on the other end the clinic is a bot too, and then it feels kind of weird, right? I mean, having that type of a scenario.
Yeah, so that's actually something that is coming. And I'll
Mhm.
give you an example. I have a reel that I sent to Victor, that I think we'll be showing a little bit later, and that essentially there's a demonstration in there of
Mhm.
a customer with an AI on their phone when connecting and talking to a a company with an
Right.
AI. And so it shows you the conversation out loud. But what really happens is that's going to be the conversation that's happening on the back end. And it happens so
Mhm.
quickly because it's AI and because it's computer language that you don't even know it's happening. But it's a good visual example to show you that they do communicate and they do talk to each other. And the same way as if you have a customer service agent bot, if you have a tech support bot, if you have a HR bot, a sales bot, if you have a training bot, if you bring in new people, you can have a training bot. That might be one of the first things people put in. Is if you've got turnover, you put a training bot in there, and every single one of your employees that you hire will be trained the exact same way, and they're all given proper suggestions because the AI can think for itself. So it's there's a slow increase of where it's going, but I wouldn't be afraid of it. I wouldn't I would learn to just pay attention to it, be on the forefront of
Absolutely.
it, and figure out the best way to move it forward.
Yeah.
Jose, I knew our time was going to go by fast. If
I
you're okay,
know.
we
We
can
need
keep
more of
going.
this.
We can keep going, and I can show you the snippet, the video that Philip is talking about. I saw the longer version, but now we have a snippet. You want to take a look at that?
Sure, yeah.
All right, let me do that.
Now, keep in mind, this is a quick demo reel. This isn't
Yeah.
professionally produced, but I will say it is 100% AI.
With Paris during the Expo Universelle in a colorized vintage film. So this is all directly coming out of the model.
That this is just that one paragraph.
So this is all coming out of the model.
Oh,
Can you translate everything I say in English back to French and vice versa?
Salut, bien sûr, je peux faire ça. Dis-moi simplement ce que tu veux dire et je le traduirai pour toi.
What do you think is going to be your favorite sport at the Olympics?
Qu'est-ce que tu prévois? It could be your favorite sport at the Olympics. À ton avis, quel sera ton sport préféré aux Jeux Olympiques? Got it. Ready when you are.
So what do you see?
Looks like you've drawn the Eiffel Tower and the Arc de Triomphe, two iconic Parisian landmarks. How can I help you with them?
My camera and then ask the AI with my voice. Plus, Microsoft just announced Phi-3 Vision, which is a small language vision model. So you could potentially have an AI that lives directly on your phone to carry out this real-time vision analysis. You don't even need to connect to the cloud or internet. This reinforces the point that we haven't reached any limits yet. We're not seeing any signs of hitting a plateau.
We really believe that, like in the future, agents may be the biggest change that will happen to software and how we interact with computers.
Can you share the order number with me? Of course. It's 10293-849.
There you go.
Great,
Yeah.
thanks. Is the device physically damaged in any way? No, there's no physical damage. It's just not turning on despite trying all the basic troubleshooting. I'll email a shipping label and return instructions. Could you provide Joe's email address for me? Sure, it's joe@example.com. Awesome. All right, I've just sent the email. Can you check if Joe received it?
We introduce Vasa,
It's
a
even
framework for
friendly.
generating lifelike talking
Yeah.
voices
So
with appealing
that
visual
conversation
effective
on the
skills.
phone, was that
given a
supposed to be
single
like a
static-
real person talking to a bot?
No, that was an agent talking to an agent. That was like the one before that said that there's Microsoft has one that you can put on your phone that's going to be a
Right.
self-contained, no internet, no anything needed. Well, that agent on your phone is going to be able to connect to all the different things on your phone, like like Siri, like Amazon, like your calendar, like your email. So you'll be talking to your phone like it's your friend and telling
Right.
it, hey, schedule me a meeting for this or book me a table for this, and this is and so that was an example of, hey, return this item for me because
Right.
it's defective.
Yeah. Man, I don't know, Victor, but obviously there's going to be a transition over this, right?
Oh, yeah.
And we are seeing it already. I know that there's a lot of people out there that are probably completely divorced of what's going on, but at some point they're going to feel the change.
Mhm.
I trust that's going to happen. We in this show, we have been talking about this for quite some time, so I think that we're getting ready.
Yeah.
In fact, we're yeah, we're already using some of those tools. But Philip, you're way ahead in terms of what you know and the solutions that you're providing. So I think that this conversation needs to continue at some point.
Yeah,
Philip, talk
there's
to us about how you have implemented a system to save enormously on maintenance and utility bills using AI in a large building.
So, okay, let's say you have a 14-story building or a 20-story building, right? Every building, you have all of these different sensors inside of it. So, if you have a building and it gets updated to the latest sensors, you might have, 100 or 200 sensors per floor. And all of those sensors are Internet of Things devices, IoT devices. So, you have to have a building management system that's already pre-built to run something like that. The problem is
Mhm.
those systems are still manual. Those systems are still just pieces of software that you have to have a technician come out and do the checks on all the sensors, see if any of them are working, running, run all these different things. You also have to have someone like your assistant come in and do these manual reports. Anytime that you need any kind of reporting analytics, you have to create the reports on the dashboard. So what we've done is we have this singular AI that we can hook into. So any software whatsoever that has an API, and they all have APIs, then what we do is we hook into those APIs with our manager AI. And then the manager AI is able to control all of those things. So as a CFO, if I wanted to ask, the AI, how much energy did we spend last month? It will pull that data and those analytics automatically from the building management system, and it will
Mhm.
formulate everything and put it into a report format for the CFO immediately. And that can happen in a matter of just a couple of minutes. So instead of going in and spending a ton of time building reports, creating reports, figuring out how the software works, if you have an AI in place, you literally don't even have to know how the software works. You just talk to the AI. And I have a good feeling that in the future, people won't know how to use the actual software. So if their AI stops working, they won't know how to control it through the building management system because they haven't had to use it.
Mhm.
And it just makes it easier, but it makes it more important to maintain your AI. And that's why we have our services. Whenever we do an AI like that, we have a subscription service that we maintain it, and we update it. We consistently keep it up to date with everything for every individual company on a constant basis because it does change, it does grow, and if the open source, LLM, if they update, we'll replace that, put the new one in there for you. So they're continuously learning and growing.
I'll tell you what, talking about buildings, in people that work in architecture, people that work in engineering, especially when designing buildings, I know that one of the challenges that they have is making sure that whatever they are designing is meeting the code, the
Mhm.
construction code. And I can almost assure you that as of right now, there is a big book
Yes.
in somebody's library in the building in that office, right? That is, go check page
Yeah.
245
Yep.
in the code. I'm just wondering why, if you're designing, if you're putting things together on a computer, why can that tell you whether what you're doing is actually meeting the code standards or not, right?
Hmm.
Because that obviously can save a lot of time in the process. But it is just an idea that I thought of when you were talking about buildings. I mean, there's a lot going on in terms of code, meeting code standards when you're designing and building something.
Yeah, and but what's one of the things that's most important about that right there is that's a really good example.
Mhm.
Yeah, we would basically take that data that's in that book. We would take that whole book and we would upload that
Mhm.
book to the AI so that it has that information at the forefront. But
Right.
what's important is what's very important here is that we have the supervisor GPT in place. So the supervisor GPT is there to make sure that when you ask a question and it checks the book, that it's
Right.
going to bring back the right information. So it
Exactly.
verifies that information before sending it to you. And
Yeah.
that way you don't have to worry about it being wrong.
And here's the thing, because let's say that one section of the building is not meeting code standards, and if you change it, then that triggers a change
Yes,
reaction in
yes.
terms of okay, then now it's not this section, but it's that section, the one that is being affected. Somebody has to think this immediately, quickly, and taking a very broad approach when it comes to something like this. But no, it's fascinating, definitely, and I can see different ways of
Oh
applying
yeah.
this technology in different fields.
Believe it or not, as many people as I've talked to, not one
Yeah,
person has given me the same use case over and again. And that's because it's universal. There's so many different areas. That's a great
yeah,
example, though, what you're talking about. If you do change one thing, or if you have to change the
yeah,
code, it can guide you through what
yeah,
to change, and not only what
yeah.
to change, what options or suggestions, and
Right,
then it can also tell you that we changed this, so now over here you have to change this. So
exactly.
it's a perfect way for you to keep track of all that.
And that can happen on, I'm using a building, for example, but what about the guys that is building ships? What
Mhm.
about the guy that is building cars?
Yeah,
What about the guy that is building containers? Anything that needs to be drawn on a computer and has specific measurements, and it has to meet certain standards, there's a ripple effect if this section of the building or this section of
yeah,
the ship doesn't meet the code.
yeah. Every one of those positions has a very important architecture job to make sure, an engineer to make sure that gets done. And I would never fully automate those. At this point right now, I always tell my clients, you keep one or two people at all times in every department. You want to make sure you have that human in between. You don't ever just replace people just because. It might sound intriguing, but you're going to
Mhm.
regret it in the long run.
Oh yeah, I can see that. Awesome.
So let me bring the conversation back to our field: media,
Right.
advertising, and PR.
Hmm.
Give us your forecast, Philip, of how AI has disrupted the field and what's coming down the pipeline.
Scare us.
Yeah, scare us some more.
Well, okay, so actually, you might want to, in this case, you might want to show probably the last maybe 1.5 minutes of the reel to
Okay.
showcase the different things of media that it can do, uh,
Okay.
because that I think is going to show you a lot of different pieces.
Let me pull that up
I can
again.
tell you, but when you see it, it's a completely different thing.
Yeah.
Um, and one of the pieces this is going to go over is how AI can create music, it can create advertisements, it can create imagery, it can create video, it can create lyrics, it can do everything. And this is just a showcase example. I have a few genres of different songs to show that these are
Uh-huh.
fully AI created. And
Yeah,
then,
I actually have a case study. Just yesterday, I was meeting with a client
mhm,
to create a branding campaign. Okay, I created a logo that she fell in love with using Chat GP4
yeah,
in 10 minutes or less. Okay,
mhm,
and now it did do some hallucinations, so I had to play around with it. But again, it's like it would have taken my graphic designer probably 3 days,
yeah,
and then I would have had to maybe hire an illustrator that
Right.
specializes in logo creation to do that work. And again, I was able to do it simply with my paid subscription to Chat GP4 in 10 minutes.
Yeah, that is happening a lot, and you and I have been using that tool for quite some time, and
Yes.
we have seen the capabilities. We in the past we may have been using Google, so we Google logos for a construction company, for example,
Yeah.
mhm.
and then you get inspired, right? But now it's different.
Yeah,
Uh,
your inspiration is right in front of you. Inspiration is
it,
immediate. And
yeah,
again, if you treat it, that's one of the things that's so different is that I treat AI as if it's an individual, because That's the
All right.
best way
So
to
let's take
make
a
it
look at
work.
this. You said the last 3 minutes?
The last, I would say, go down to about 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
Okay.
Now go back down.
Go back down. 3:30.
Oh, 3:30.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
There you
like
go.
right there, roughly.
Yeah.
I thought maybe it's the mix, or maybe the flow, not cause and the fix. Every note precise, every
That's 100%
word was
AI.
tight. Still no bright light, let
Yeah.
me down my
The
mind.
song.
Is it the hook?
I know.
Crooked or the verse too soft? Try to edge it up, not feeling lost.
Now, is the song being created also
Yes.
on the fly?
Yes. It took literally two to 3 minutes to make it.
And that kind of makes you think about music rights, right?
Yeah. Well, it's yeah. Pretty much.
Subscribers love, do they care? Game on tight, we'll never sleep.
Jeez.
Haunted by secrets we
Yeah, this
keep.
client needed proprietary music because she found out that when she was about to launch the product years ago, she didn't have proprietary music.
Mm. So just by listening to that, I can tell you musicians should be scared.
Yes.
Here's an advertising example.
Bringing green right to your bed. Less to spend, more to grow. Watch your cash flow start to flow.
Now, I am not an advertiser, so that is not 100% my expertise. I have people for that. So,
Sure.
so in terms of creating the actual song, the lyrics, I mean, AI just makes things so much quicker, so much more efficient, and there's so much opportunity. You can graphics, art, everything.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but I guess like in my case, I'm in a small business, right? But having access to all this technology for others that are basically in the same position that I am, I mean, it can definitely put you at a level that is maybe of a medium-sized company or a
Yes.
large company.
Totally.
Because I mean, you have access to all this technology, and it's not. I mean, it's actually very good in many instances. And if you know how to use it, how to prompt AI, you can definitely go very far. So in my field, your field, Victor, our field, this is definitely a game changer for sure.
I saw an article yesterday that they're referring to a new label for a career is prompt engineer, because there is a certain level of expertise that you got to have in being able to have the right prompt, the right verbiage to be able to generate the desired results. And again, this is where training, just basic level training. I mean, I'm an early adopter and I'm picking this up very easily and very quickly. But imagine having a formal study in prompt engineering and a guided course on why the bot works a certain way, or how it thinks a certain way, depending on the verbiage, on the syntax. I mean, it's a totally wide open field now to develop new expertise in the use of AI.
So, if you don't mind, I'm going to interject on that real quick because, yes, there are articles like that, and here's where my expertise comes into play. Um, those are things that you're seeing right now that are out there that people are trying to do, but what I would consider that job is a temporary job. It's not something that is
Right.
going to continue on simply because AI is already right now in itself being able to enhance the
Correct.
prompts that a regular person puts
Correct.
in. So in terms of the prompt engineer role, it definitely had a heyday probably in the last about the last year, but right now we've already seen some AI taking over that prompt engineering and enhancing the prompts automatically. Now it's still something that you should learn. that you should learn
Right.
about. You should know what you need to say and how to say things. But within the next 6 months to a year, we won't need prompt engineering at all. You'll be talking to it like a friend, and it will do.
Yeah.
It'll know, and it will be able to prompt engineer by itself.
And
That's
and
where
and, I,
technology
and
is just going.
yeah, and what I see and what I'm understanding out of this is that, one thing is to have the tools, the platform in place and understand how to prompt the system, right? But another thing is your role, like in your case, Victor, and in my case, of what is that content that needs to be generated, because at the end of the day, in our field, we're creating stories,
Yes.
and we're generating content. So how to use these tools to generate that story, to make sure that this company is positioning itself the right way in the market, uh, that's where the beauty of all this comes into play, I think.
Yeah,
And
I don't think original creatives can be replaced. They can only be enhanced. Is
right,
my personal view. Is
somebody,
there's a certain just think about it, Jose. There's a certain level of gravitas and experience that we have that is baked into our culture, our experience. Also, the consumer, knowing the consumer, how the consumer is going to react to the messaging, the imaging, the everything that cannot be totally replaced by AI. It can get close. And again, this is about using AI as an extension of what we do, not necessarily replacing the creatives.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Um,
there's only there's no way to completely negate your role or position. The client needs someone like yourself
Yeah,
that is going to be comfortable and capable and say, okay, you've got my idea. You know what we're doing.
we
They
get
won't
back
talk to you.
to the basic three fundamental principles of why we do business with others. They trust us, they like us, and we're knowledgeable about the product or service.
Hmm.
So again, this is the time to be upping your game when it comes to knowledge. And again, if you already have that social capital of being trusted, you can actually go up on your pricing because now you are an expert on another level.
right. Yeah.
Jose, if you don't mind, I'd like to touch base on something that you said just a minute ago, about
Mhm.
how being a small business, a lot, and AI is able to supplement everything that you're doing. And you make a really good point, and I actually have a prediction for that. Uh,
Okay.
I I foresee that individual jobs will be taken over. However,
Mhm.
the entrepreneur, the small business owner is going to be accelerated
Yeah.
because if you have, and one of the programs that we wanted to put together that I haven't fully done yet is a small business package of AI
Mhm.
bots that a someone who wants to start a business could utilize to
Mm.
greatly enhance their initial startup.
Yeah.
But aside from that, it's also it's also a way for small business owners to reduce their overhead costs and decrease their prices to compete with all of these bigger companies. And I think we're going to see a lot of small businesses and entrepreneurs that are utilizing these tools and and actually being able to start competing with these large corporations. It
Yeah.
might be a little bit, but I think that's what a direction that we see going.
Absolutely. Yeah. I actually have more ideas for you, but I know that we don't have much time. But
We gotta have you back as a regular, Philip, to keep us
yeah,
abreast of to keep scaring us
Yeah,
yeah, it's
well,
been
it
scaring
changes
us.
every week, so it's
on
nonstop.
what's coming down the pipeline. But just imagine, Jose, the capabilities now of being
Mhm.
able to have through AI an entire production company
Yeah.
that would take literally millions of dollars to set up and to operate to be able to produce broadcast quality production that
Absolutely.
I don't
Yeah.
think we're quite there yet. Are we,
Mhm.
Philip? Are we there? That AI can now produce broadcast quality content?
Not in video, not yet. Now, what you
Okay.
saw in that demonstration, the very first
Yeah.
piece in there, that is what's called Sora. It's not released yet. It's in development, and it's been released to researchers for safety projects and for safety concerns up front. But it's made by OpenAI, and it is a part of. It's probably going to be released by the next 3 to 6 months. That will be able to do production quality. Like the video you saw, they were asking for a vintage film of
Yeah.
Italy,
Yeah.
and it's beautiful. So that's
Yeah.
its testing right now. But right now, text to video is not there. Text to image is fantastic. Yes, you can get realistic photos. There are such things out there right now, which we actually have a couple of clients that we talk to about AI influencers. If you want to build a social brand, you need an
Wow.
AI influencer.
Yeah.
And they're literally, there are AI influencers that have 2 million followers.
Yeah.
And
Bot
what they do,
influencers.
Bots influencing
That's
other
what we
bots.
has come down to, Jose.
they
Bots
get brand
are
deals.
replacing us as influencers.
No, AI influencer is a supplement. In other words,
Yeah.
if you really want to, there's a few out there that are in the millions of followers, and they get brand deals from these companies that all they have to do to complete the brand deal is an AI image. They don't have to bring the influencer to them. They don't have to go to the influencer. They don't have to deal with the influencers like all the TikTokers and all these other Instagram people. They don't have to, have a writer for them and figure out what they like and what they don't want and what they're not going to do. It's simplistic, and so AI, the brands are doing, $5,000 for a post for
Right.
showcasing
Wow.
their clothing on an
Yeah.
AI influencer. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's so many different things, but it's not going to be able to replace everything. But it is a social media tool that they don't realize is there, but it's definitely something that to help monetize brands.
Man, talk about scaring us.
Yeah.
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 It's an assistant. It's not going to replace anything. It's going to be an assistant to what you're doing. It's going to help you
No, I
enhance
know.
your business just
Yeah.
exponentially.
Absolutely. No, I get it. But for someone that is going to college right now and trying, scratching their head and man, what the
Yeah.
Okay, let's change career, right? Let's go another way.
Well, at least you didn't graduate in AI right now and realize that you're already behind the curve.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get
Yeah.
it.
There's a lot of people that are graduating right now that are already behind because it's
Yeah.
already past.
Imagine spending all that money in all those years and
Yeah.
already having a career that's obsolete.
Yeah.
Boy.
That's
Yeah.
crazy. Crazy.
All right.
Well, that's
you're
going to
in.
do it for today, guys. Like I said, Philip, this has been very enlightening, and we do have to have you back to keep us abreast of any latest developments on AI. And who knows, maybe even put on a workshop for our
Yeah.
viewers.
That's
Yeah.
a great idea.
That would be good. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
And I'm more than happy to come back. More than happy to come back anytime that you need.
All
Perfect.
right. Any
And-
final question, Jose? Any final words?
I think that we definitely need to have that follow-up conversation. I mean, I have already a few ideas that I need to check with Philip, and we can actually make a case here,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to nonprofits, right, Victor? I mean,
exactly.
Fundraising is a big deal.
And I need to talk to you about creating that AI influencer for one of my clients.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh, I have a plan already all for that. So I know how we need to get that going and how it needs to work. But it's definitely there's a lot of change coming, and it's consistently every 2 weeks, every month, and it just continues to
Yes.
grow.
Yeah.
And I know there's some really big things coming on the horizon. And I'm just waiting for them to be announced and to
Yeah.
drop before.
Yeah.
But again, even when I know, most of the time you're going to have, only 10% of the, consultants
Yeah.
are going to know about it. Everybody
Right.
else is just
Yeah.
still going with Chat GPT.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the difference.
Well, we can say we got friends in high places in AI world.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no shortage. But
All
again,
right,
every
guys.
consultation
Well, we're
is
going to have to leave it there. Until next time, go out and thrive.
All right. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye.